start, I'd like to acknowledge that we are meeting on Ngunnawal Ngambri land and pay our respects to elders past, present and future. Yesterday, I had the great pleasure of tabling the Community Affairs Reference Committee's report into indefinite detention of people with cognitive and psychiatric impairment. We made 32 recommendations that we are urging the government to take action on. I don't think that many people in our community would believe that in Australia we are still sentencing people to people are being sentenced effectively to indefinite detention, and people are currently being held indefinitely in prisons because they have a disability and there is nowhere else to go, because our laws are flawed, because there's not proper diagnostic tools for people, there's not interventions, and the government knows this and they have not been taking action. There is a lack of data, so we can't accurately say how many people are being held in detention, but we do know that predominantly those are Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. That then necessitates action and supports that support Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples to ensure that supports and services are culturally appropriate, to make sure that they are Aboriginal controlled organisation delivering those services. My own home state in Western Australia and Northern Territory particularly need urgent action on their legislation. Importantly, they also need to make sure that they have appropriate accommodation so that people are not being held in prison, so that people are in alternative accommodation, so that they are supported in alternative accommodation, so that they're either in secure therapeutic care or in fact in supported accommodation in the community. This is 2016. Australia should be doing better, and they should be meeting their obligations under the International Convention of the Rights of People with Disability. Indefinite detention contravenes that convention. I'm standing here with a wide range of stakeholders who have been working on this issue for an extremely long time. First off, I would like to hand over to Scott Avery, who is from the First Peoples Disability Network and also was a key player in bringing together a consortium submission to the committee which drew together a range of stakeholders and academics and put together a key submission to our inquiry, which in fact does what the government should be doing, and that is integrating support and collaborating across the spectrum to make sure that we're taking a holistic approach to this issue. Scott, I'd like to hand over to you.
Thank you. I'm Scott Avery, I'm from the First Peoples Disability Network. So we are here as a consortium. We've put together a document which can be seen as a companion document to what the Senate tabled yesterday. That we're actually here talking about the impact of disability in the justice system itself is something of a breakthrough. It is very much an untold story and very an awkward topic. So we commend the Senate for actually addressing this topic. And what the report highlights is a number of important legal reform recommendations. Now, these are important because what they do is go some way to restoring the basic rights that every person in this country has. So these are important. But this is more than just a legal reform issue. It's a social policy issue as well. Because what happens with the way we see justice in this country, we see the justice system as starting from the moment someone is picked up for an alleged crime. But it actually, for an Aboriginal person with disability, the justice system starts from their birth. And day one, this can actually be quite a bit of struggle. It's a life of social exclusion and being marginalised. The real risk of being taken from their family, their home, their community, unsupported disability in early childhood, being locked out of education, being locked out of jobs. So Aboriginal people with disability are locked out a lot longer before they're locked up. So we're here today, we're going to work through the Senate inquiry report line by line because it's been tabled yesterday. We want to get straight to very practical actions. This is a collaborative effort in which disability experts will be standing side by side with legal experts And we want to collaborate with government in that process as well. Because we think that if we can collaborate in that way and elevate and promote the voices of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people with disability who have a harsh and hostile system weighted against them, if we can balance that through this collaborative effort, then there is a chance that this can trigger a more progressive way to see our justice system. So I'm handing over now to Carly Warner from the National Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Legal Services.
Beth Wild from the North Australian Aboriginal Legal Service.
So indefinite detention of people with a disability is a real and inhumane situation in Australia, where Australia's policies and practices are falling short of international standards and of Australia's human rights obligations. The criminal justice system is increasingly being used as a default care provider for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people with a disability. Now, they're overrepresented in every aspect of the justice system. All 9 of the people indefinitely detained in the Northern Territory are Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. However, people held indefinitely represent a small fraction of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people within the criminal justice system who have a disability. Now, this inquiry facilitated an introduction to the breadth of issues that are affecting Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people with a disability who are cycling in and out of the criminal justice system from an early age. This is in the absence of coordinated and integrated community-led solutions and pathways. We're looking forward to reviewing the report and to coming up with a plan for implementation. I'm going to hand over now.
Patrick McGee from Australians for Disability Justice. This report shines a light on the fact that people with cognitive impairments and psychiatric impairments are not guaranteed the right of liberty and security of the person. People like Marlon Noble, who was detained in a Western Australian jail without conviction for 10 years. People like Rosie-Anne Fulton, who since returning from indefinite detention in Western Australia has spent much of her time detained in a maximum security prison in Alice Springs. And people like my mate Malcolm Morton, who, whilst detained in an Alice Springs jail, was restrained in a restraint chair 17 times. We can do better and we need to do better, and this report is a blueprint for how we can do better.
Patrick Kaiser from La Trobe University. I'm here with the Disability Justice Consortium today and a number of academic colleagues who've established some important research that supports the Senate report recommendations. There's a very substantial amount of research available in Australia already that points the way to the sorts of social policy outcomes that are necessary for people who are indefinitely detained who've got psychiatric impairment or cognitive impairment. What we're calling on the government to do now is to work effectively and urgently with the states and the territories to support the development of an integrated and coordinated social service system that will bring justice for these people.